Hi, Wallace.
Hi, Michelle.
Oh, I am. Allergies in LA. Reproductive rights. Just crumbling around us.
We are here. I like the I am statement.
How are you? I am.
I am. We are. We are.
We are.
And dear listeners, welcome to the 12th house. We hope that you are okay.
Or just are. We're glad you are.
We're glad you are. That we are all together in this crazy multiverse.
It's crazy out there. Absolutely mad lads out there.
I mean, Mercury RX. Show up.
Has your Mercury RX been absolutely batshit? Because mine has been absolutely batshit so far.
Bonkers. I also went in, I was like, oh yeah, perfect time to review all the things. I'm ready. And then it was like, bam! Just hitting me in all the places I didn't expect.
We all talked about it so thoughtfully on Tuesday in our meeting about Mercury retrograde. And yet, nevertheless, the Mercury retrograde persisted.
She does what she wants.
She has no master. Her master certainly is not me.
No, nor I. She's creative. And, we are here to talk about the lives of creatives here.
We are indeed. This is our second episode. We're talking about being creative and the systems that come with creativity, which honestly sounds antithetical, maybe. Like systems, creatives, those don't go together.
It's like he who shall not be named, our systems for creatives. You're like, habits, rules?
No.
Schedules? Don't talk to me.
I'm intuitive. I'm creative. I'm flowy. I don't need that stuff. That's just rigid.
Yeah.
No. We're here to maybe change your mind about that. Because first off, systems should not be rigid. That's the opposite of the point of them. Systems ideally reflect the systems we see in nature. So they are organic, they're flexible, they're intuitive, they're regenerative, they have zero waste and zero redundancy. They're kind of sexy.
Yeah, I was like, sounds great. Let's just melt into that. But we have got a little bit of a kind of show for you guys today. We've come to the pod with some of our favorite, most interesting, anecdotal tidbits of habits and routines that artists of the past have created for themselves, which have allowed them to do the work that they do.
This kind of came from our system spells class, which we're teaching actually an intensive version. It's like a deep dive, just 2 days. We're going to go through everything in 48 hours. So if you're a binger, this is going to be for you. But in our system spells class, we talk about two of my favorite prolific creators, Kendrick Lamar and Joan Rivers. And
yes,
both of them have these amazing, incredible systems that they use that are not rigid at all to take notes, to stay inspired. And I'm going to leave that for class if you want to learn more about them because we spent quite a bit of time on it. But this is my secret obsession. I just want to know every ritual, every practice of prolific makers because I want to be a prolific maker and I'm just always inspired and it makes me giddy doing that. I read a whole book just to research this podcast episode because I was like, this is so fun. I love this stuff.
Also, we'll share the book in the show notes, but one of the things we were talking about before we hit record is that sometimes artists themselves don't even identify, or creatives or makers don't identify certain habits they have as rituals. They don't necessarily see them as systems. Mm-hmm. So in this book, which I haven't read, but I have heard about from you, what's cool is having somebody distill some of the similarities and pull out oh, actually that habit and routine that you have sounds like it's really helpful for you to get into your flow state. So sometimes people aren't even aware of the things that they're doing.
Exactly. And I think actually that really applies to people with squiggly brains or ADHD because we tend to create an environment around us that helps us thrive and function. And that usually means that we need certain rituals or certain specific environmental factors, either internal or external environmental factors. Like if you're in a bad mood, maybe you can't create something, so you need to get yourself in a good mood to be creative. We do that so that we can rely on our creativity, which is not always, is fickle, right? Like, and a lot of what I took away from this book and just learning about creatives is it's that creativity is a habit and creation is a habit. And all the best you can do is to just show up, and like you might make really bad work one day, but if you just keep showing up over and over again, what you can rely on is that habit or ritual, that magic that's there to get you going and keep you going when things feel really hard. Like when I'm depressed, and really going through it, I can rely on my systems to help me like keep going when I really, really don't want to. And I'm grateful for them. It's not like I'm slogging through it. It's like, oh, thank God I have something to anchor me in this storm.
Yeah. And I think one thing that I've noticed through learning more about these different creators' habits is, to your point, it's that follow through. It's the execution that separates good artists from great artists. Like so many of us have so many ideas that we just don't execute on. And if you can figure out what the habits are that put you in a position to execute and release that perfectionism more easily, that really puts you ahead. And not that you're in competition with other people. It's really about you and you.
Yeah.
But
yeah, totally. And it's actually like not at all self-discipline. Like self-discipline has nothing really to do with it. It's more just like putting yourself in the right position. Like Jackson Pollock, I won't probably talk about him too much, but he was like a total alcoholic, right? And like kind of not a great guy. But his wife, Lee, she was like, you're an alcoholic, but you're going to be a really good painter. So we're moving to Long Island. We're moving to the small fishing village. I'm going to wake you up. I'm going to make your breakfast. I'm going to create the perfect environment for you, basically, so you don't fucking kill yourself with alcohol, and so you can start making something. And that period of his life was his most prolific, and it was when he started making what he's famous for now, the style that he's famous for now. So sometimes like your system, your ritual, your practice, like it almost hinges on like the help that you can get around you. Like he picked her for a reason, right?
Behind every good man, there's a wife. An
even better woman.
Yeah, exactly. Running shit.
Exactly. I know she really doesn't get the credit she deserves. And also like a little bit of a misogynistic and patriarchal take, but also hopefully proves the point that like we don't have to just be like these self-firing engines all the time. Like set up your world around you to help keep you going when you have no fuel left, you know?
I mean, even for me, the difference now of working at a co-working space and working at home. Yeah. I'm like, all right, my house can't be messy because it'll just distract me.
Yeah. It's such a good example.
It's also really hard to keep it clean when you're home all day.
Oh my gosh. Why is my house 1,000 times messier when it's just me like literally sitting on the couch? Every single cabinet in my kitchen is open right now. I know it.
It's insane. I'm like, how did I do this? I've been mostly working. How did I do this within these hours?
Like I think I've done like 300 steps today. Like that's it.
Who knows?
Honestly, it's this talent.
Honestly, it's impressive. You might be hearing a lot of this talk about system spells and wondering, what is this?
What is that? System Spells is our class under the Notion for Magical Bodies universe, where we teach you, squiggly-brained listeners like us, how to use systems to help you thrive so you can feel like you have your shit together, which is a really nice way to feel, honestly.
A lot of what we teach in this class is about how to set up systems for your business, but it doesn't start and stop there. It can be for any part of your life. And it's really to help you organize and streamline processes in your life that you feel might be holding you back from getting the things done that you want to get done.
Exactly. I'm not a naturally organized, clean, tidy, deliberate, disciplined person. I'm just not. I have ADHD. I'm intuitive. I'm really creative, and I'm good at a lot of other things. Organization is not one of them. And in order to run your own business or go do things in the world, you kind of have to be able to follow through, you know? So the whole point of the System Spells class is to teach those of us who are not naturally really good at these things, who don't like to use a Google Calendar, who've never kept up with a planner in their lives, how to stay on track and actually build systems that work for us and our brains rather than work against us. And we've heard from so many of our alumni that this class has literally changed their lives, which is the highest compliment. So we mentioned that throughout, and we actually have a System Spells intensive coming up on June 18th and June 19th. Instead of taking the class over 2 weeks, you'll take it over 2 days. So if you love to binge on Netflix or you love to binge this podcast, you will absolutely love our System Spells intensive. You can sign up at notionforbaddies.com.
Well, Jonks. Let's talk about our people.
I have so many.
We'll go one for one.
I have so many. Okay. I'm going to start with Toni Morrison. Toni Morrison woke up every morning at 5 a.m., made coffee, and watched the light come. And she said that part was very crucial. Her quote is, writers all devise ways to approach that place where they expect to make the contact, where they become the conduit, or where they engage in this mysterious process. For me, light is the signal in the transaction. It's not being in the light. It's being there before it arrives. It enables me in some sense. And throughout her creative life, you know, she's had this incredible creative life, but she had very different rituals, but that was the one that she always kept. Waking up every morning at 5 a.m., coffee, and watching the light.
That's beautiful. I love that. Sets the tone for her day. Do you know if she wrote after that?
It depends on the time of her life that she did, because she also worked in publishing. But yeah, sounds like that was when she was most creative.
Yeah, there are a lot of themes, I think, that we found, which we'll talk about at the end. But I'm going to do a story to counter the early riser. So this is Willem and Elaine de Kooning. You probably know de Koonings, especially in New York. There's some in LA. He's like big sculptures of dogs that look like balloon animals. He's quite famous for those. And among... De Kooning? Oh, wait, no, that's Jeff Koons. I was like, sorry. De Kooning is a painter.
Yeah, but he is famous for like large format and in New York and LA.
This is true. I take it back. So his wife, Elaine, is also a painter, and they were not morning people. They were like, no, that's not for us. They would wake up around 10 or 11 a.m., and then they would immediately gulp down several cups of strong coffee, and then they would start painting essentially pretty much right away. And then they would maybe break in the afternoon for, I read this thing that said more coffee, maybe lunch. And then they would eat dinner with friends. But I really like that they really own the fact that they're like, no, we're not morning people. So that's not happening for us. We'll get up and then we'll go straight to the studio because that's what will work for us. But we don't need to follow a certain routine that other people are following just because.
There were a bunch of artists that are very similar to that. Actually, David Hockney would drink until like very late.
Lots of drinkers.
Lots of drinking. And then when he woke up, he would wake up sometimes early, sometimes at 10, and then he would just get started. I like that. You don't have to be an early bird. But my next person is an early bird, and I love Maya Angelou. She says easy reading is damn hard writing. And she would keep a hotel room in her hometown and pay for it every month, like she was paying rent on it, which is actually so smart.
So smart.
And she'd go at 6:30 in the morning. She'd have a bedroom with a bed, the table, and the bath, and a dictionary, a thesaurus, and a Bible, a pack of cards, and some crossword puzzles, something to occupy her. She says, something to occupy my little mind. I think my grandmother taught me that. She didn't mean to, but she used to talk about her quote unquote little mind. So when I was young, from the time when I was about 3 until 13, I decided there was a big mind and a little mind. The big mind would allow you to consider deep thoughts, and the little mind would occupy you so you could not be distracted. It would work crossword puzzles or play solitaire, while the big mind would delve into the subjects I wanted to write about. I mean, she's totally right.
I love that.
We actually have evidence for this. Deep work, extended mind theory. She had all the paintings and the decorations taken out of the room and asked no one to disturb her. And then she would, she'd get there at 6:30. She'd, putz around, and she'd usually be out by 2. go home, read what she'd written, and then try to edit and clean things up. And that was it. That was her process. I just love that idea of like, yeah, sometimes you have to go play solitaire for a couple hours or do some crosswords, but you sit at your desk while you do it, you know?
She's curating her environment there. She's setting herself up for success. She's like, I don't want to be distracted by the paintings or the sculptures.
Exactly. Like, and also knowing what is the right kind of distracting versus the wrong kind of distracting, right? Like crosswords, puzzles, but that's little mind distracting and that's good. But the other stuff, not so much.
Well, and that the little mind will inform the, what is it? Bigger mind? Big mind?
The big mind. Yeah.
At the right times with the right information.
Exactly.
I like that a lot. Okay. My next person is, I'm going to use Agnes Martin.
Yes.
Who is quite a character and is known for large, beautiful, modern, very precise pieces of work. She did a lot of painting. She did drawing as well. And she talks a lot about her studio practice and how sacred it was and important for her to be alone. Because she would show up every day. Sometimes she would lie on the floor and she would ask for inspiration. She would say, what do I paint today? What am I making today? And I just love that she would enter without a lot of expectations of making something so specific. And she also was very, I guess, controlled about the environment. She has this quote, "A studio is not a place in which to talk to friends. You will hate your friends if they destroy the atmosphere of your studio." So I think what I take from that is being around the right people to help you, and maybe that means no one, but maybe sometimes that means people who help you get into action and who inspire you. Agnes Martin was a very solo artist and really believed that the best ideas would come to you when you were alone, and quite extreme about her tidiness and her organization and keeping a clean studio. And I think she related it to like a clean studio, a clean mind, and more access to the higher mind and higher inspiration when you're not kind of busied with things around you. I personally resonate with that because it's true for me in terms of space. I'm very, very sensitive to it. But I also think that can be a slippery slope if you're a little bit too rigid.
That reminds me of a couple things. First, Fellini was famously a very, had to be social and had to be around people because he was like, writers are so lucky. They can just write, put their head down. But directors can't because we need people and we need to be around people and see people and hear people. So to your point, you need to be around the right people. It also makes me think of Tom Sachs' 10 Bullets. And his idea of always be we'll put the video. It's really long. It's 21 minutes, but it's amazing. It's so worth watching. And especially the always be knolling, which is bullet number 8.
So good. I'm going to make a note of this. I haven't watched that in a long time.
It's so good. I used to date an art teacher and he always made his high school class watch it.
Oh.
And it's just so good. It's so useful for someone who's beginning a practice. It's it reminds me of mise en place, which we also talk about in system spells. There's a lot of overlap there.
I like that idea of directors. You need to be stimulated and be around people and that's why for the most part, even if I'm not at a co-working place, I like to be at a coffee shop and just overhear conversations and be kind of stimulated by just looking at people. So you just got to know thyself.
It's true. And I mean, as the content queen, coming up with the ideas and the pitches, it's important for you to hear what other people are talking about.
Yeah.
And I feel when I'm writing, when I'm writing copy stuff, I need to just be in my house in my pajamas, head down. Can't be interrupted. It just depends. Okay. Yeah. I have another one who I think you'll like. So this is Anne Rice. She wrote Interview with the Vampire, amongst many other books. And I actually just love her. I love her so much after reading about her rituals. So she said, "I certainly have a routine, but the most important thing when I look back over my career has been the ability to change routines." She has kids, and she said, I found when I had the time, when I could concentrate and think the best, it changed. At first, it was when she like when she was younger, she had to be alone in the middle of the night without the phone, without friends calling, without her husband, and then her children being asleep. And then once her sons were born, she had to make the big switch to doing daytime writing. And that's what she does now. But I love this. She's like, my ritual is like, I wake up late and I read the newspaper and then I check Facebook.
She's like, I'm a modern woman.
Exactly. And then she writes emails and then she starts writing and she writes until like, the early afternoon. And then she, says that she takes breaks to stretch her legs, look out the window, and drink a quote unquote massive amount of Diet Coke on ice. And then in the evening, she watches TV or a movie to relax. That works best for me right now. And there were many times when I couldn't write until the evening, and that's worked fine too. It's always just a search for an uninterrupted 3 or 4 hour stretch. I just like that. Like, she's like, it's not really precious. Like, I'm just trying to get some uninterrupted time.
It's all workable.
Mm-hmm.
Anne Rice, a Zen philosopher.
Right. As long as she's got her ice and Diet Coke.
Yeah.
She's good.
Well,
again, you got to know what your non-negotiables are. And from there, you're good.
Spoiler, but some of the themes among a lot of these artists, lots of caffeine, lots of sugar.
Yes. And weirdly, like the same food. Like the same.
Cigarettes.
Cocaine. No, but really like the same lunch every day, the same breakfast every morning.
Routine.
Like that was really important for a lot of people.
Yeah. David Lynch, who's notoriously a weird guy, but also a transcendental meditator. I found this note about him eating the same lunch and dinner every day, except for sometimes with dinner, he would add a soup. And
wild and crazy guy.
So crazy. I just thought this was a very specific sandwich. It was, it's an open face. It's not even a sandwich.
Whoa.
1 piece of bread with mayo and chicken.
Okay, that sounds disgusting.
Not really my vibe, but everyone.
Is the chicken shredded?
Yeah.
Is it canned chicken?
Ew, I hope not.
I wouldn't be surprised.
That's true. The other funny thing about David Lynch, so he was one of those people I think who was really aware of being interrupted in his flow. So I found this quote where he said, I considered psychoanalysis to talk about these cycles of things like repetitive lunches. I asked the therapist, could meeting you affect my creativity? And he said, I have to be honest, it could. And I said, thank you very much. Goodbye.
Yeah. I mean,
and so his obsessive approach is what allowed him not to condone that. We love therapy.
Yeah. I mean, he's found a way to make his dysfunction functional.
Yeah.
And I think that that's the thing. Like, I wouldn't say any of these people are like super balanced, super healthy.
What is
necessarily, right? But who is exactly? Like, we're all dysfunctional in our own ways. Like, I got ADHD. I got epilepsy. I got all the things. Like, I got to just work with this dysfunctional system that I have and like make it as, I don't know, finely tuned as I possibly can. And that might look weird to some people.
Yeah. Yeah. And actually to that point, Patti Smith, one of her routines is she talks about she gets up early, she goes to a cafe. Let me just read the quote. I think having my routine is really helpful for me. I get up early, go to a cafe, or if I don't have a cafe, I go to my desk or somewhere early in the morning. A coffee, preferably when the city is sleeping, when people are sleeping. You seem to own the universe and spend some time with yourself writing. And that's what you need to make a habit. And I think what I like in the way that she talks about her habit of writing is she describes it as a discipline and as labor. And I know that word discipline, sometimes we're like, but I like that she describes it as labor because it's taking it, one, very seriously, and also understanding that you need the right nourishment. You need sleep to feel good. You also afterwards will be tired. It takes a lot of energy to have creative output, whatever your medium. So I just think that that was a nice reminder of that your creative efforts and output is labor. So not only should we be, of course, paid for that labor, like we talk about in creators cashing in especially, but also that we should give it that respect for ourselves and for other people.
Ugh, it's so true. And that's such a good point because we can feel exhausted at the end of the day and we're like, it's not like I'm like toiling in the hot sun. I'm not like picking strawberries or something. Like I'm not a day laborer, but I'm exhausted and like I'm spent and it's like my brain feels like it's been like wrung out. And I think that's why so many of these people have the same sort of they have repetition in their lives, things that they do not need to think about, because every sort of decision that you can sort of cut out of your life as a creative person means that you'll have more power and decision-making process in the actual work that matters for you. So if you waste your decision-making on like, should I get a poppy seed bagel or a sesame seed bagel today? It sounds silly, but that'll like peter you out earlier when it comes to the actual, maybe more exciting creative work that you're here to do, like your sacred work.
Absolutely. Even the task of being like, what am I going to have for lunch?
Yeah. Which Truly. It makes so much sense. It's also why so many of these people wear the same thing over and over again. Like these insanely creative, visionary, colorful people have a uniform of all black. It's like, well, that's not the most important thing to me. Like I'm expressing myself through my art. I don't need to express it myself through my clothing necessarily. But I think Twyla Tharp, she's a choreographer, such a good example. She says a dancer's life is all about repetition. I repeat, she basically wakes up every morning at 5:30. She puts on her workout clothes, which is like so cute. 'Cause she's also like in her 80s now, her leg warmers, her sweatshirt and a hat. And then she goes and hails a taxi to take her to her gym where she works out for 2 hours, like stretching and doing some light weightlifting. But she says the ritual is not the stretching. It's not the weight training. The ritual is the cab. The moment I tell the driver where to go, I have completed the ritual. And it's like, yes, that's exactly right. Because when we talk about systems, we almost talk about it like water falling down a mountain, right? And like the path that water carves to help it flow more smoothly in the right direction. It's more about the amount of work that we don't have to do than the work that we have to do. Systems should eliminate as much work as possible. And that is right. Once you get in the car, it's like, great, now I'm on. Like, now I'm on track for the rest of the day. I don't need to worry because I've got my ritual. And I just love that.
And it's like everything that happens afterwards will be, for the most part, or for a few hours, automatic.
Yeah. And she's a very prolific choreographer. Yeah. She's done so much.
I love that. I also love that she's doing that into her 80s.
I hope she is. Yeah. I mean, she also wrote an amazing book called The Creative Habit. It's really fucking long, but it's really good.
Add it to the list. Guess what? We have not sponsored. This is sponsored by.
Actually sponsored by
the lovely, aesthetically pleasing, and wonderfully built meditation app, Open.
Truly the best meditation app.
Kind of BFF.
Obsessed with them. Actually, like wrote a full white paper on Open like a year ago.
We saw them. We were like, this is sexy.
This is the future.
And they also have recently added a ton of new content. They have a bunch of series talking about the science of breath work. And they also have daily meditations. They have sleep meditations. They have new movement classes. And honestly, sometimes caffeine's not going to do the trick. Like, you just can't have more caffeine every day. So sometimes you really just need to do a little meditation, a little breath work.
And you can do it on your PEMF mat. You can do it in your sauna. You can do it in your bed. I mean, if you're a squiggly brain person, you're going to love Open because everything about the experience keeps you engaged. It's like Paul said, gorgeous. And the music is so good. And all the teachers are amazing. Like,
they're also gorgeous.
They're also, I think you have
gorgeous.
to be attractive to work there.
Yeah.
Maybe it's the meditation, man. Maybe meditation makes you glow.
Yeah. I mean, breathwork is good for everything. It must be good for your skin.
It's got to.
So you can actually try it for free. This is a good deal.
Seriously.
Such a good deal.
It's actually like a crazy deal.
It's 30 free days. You can use code Holisticism with the link in our show notes. And honestly, you should join us. And it's just a great way to just do a little reset, have the skin glow a little more.
Amen. Yeah, try it for free. You've got nothing to lose, right?
Except for your sanity.
But you've already lost it. You're already completely unhinged.
Yeah. Can't say enough great things about Open. So download the app. You can use code Holisticism with the link in our show notes. I will bring up Shonda Rhimes. I think I was talking about this on another 12th House podcast, and I actually really liked her masterclass, and I watched it ages ago, but what I really took from it is her morning habit of reading. I think she reads like 20 different news sources or 10 or something all over the world because she enjoys the practice, but it really contributes to her work in a huge way. And she's like, this sets me up to write all day because
how could she write Scandal if she's not reading 10 different newspapers every day?
Exactly. Exactly. So she's constantly just amassing material. And I think there's, other than the fact that you can get really depressed really quickly.
Really take your day down.
Yeah. I think what's nice about that for her is she has a place to channel it. So I think as creators and people who are, even if you're not necessarily writing, you inevitably have to write to market yourself, and to always be kind of gathering inspiration makes it so much easier to not write from a blank page, which is why we talk about the second brain so much in System Spells. And I think second brain has been really, really revolutionary for a lot of people. And I can't help but wonder how Shonda stores all of her notes. She didn't share that.
Yeah, I would love to know her note storage system. Shonda, call us. Also, she is just such a fountain of wisdom and knowledge and like awareness.
Yes.
I heard her talking about parenting, and she was like, every time you see me doing something great, that means that I'm failing somewhere else. And I was like, that is so hard. That's so tough. But she's like, every time you see me win an Emmy, it's like means that I'm failing at being home with my kids. And that sucks. And we talk about it. And it's somewhat refreshing, if not a little like depressing, to be like, yes, it's hard to have it all. I don't know if it's possible to have it all. And like, if you're surviving somewhere, thriving in one way, you might feel like you're failing in another. And like, that's life.
That's why the fallacy of like a balanced life, it's like to who it looks different for everyone.
Totally agree with you. Like second brain, and we give you a second brain template in System Spells, but we also teach you how to make your own, which I think is more valuable than like just giving you a random template. It's not random. It took us a long time to make, but it's more helpful to understand how something works. And I think once you do, you start actually taking in information in a completely different way because it's way less passive and just like whatever in your little brain.
It's more intentional.
Yes, exactly. And I know that when I clear out my inbox at the end of the week and I have like 30 stories and I end up deleting 20 of them because I'm like, these suck. And then I save the ones that are really valuable. I always go back to them. I'm like, oh, right. Like I can use this. And it works its way into like my understanding of the world so differently than maybe in my 20s when I used to read a lot and I just wouldn't retain information.
Got to get those highlights.
You got to do it. You got to do it. Okay. I have a couple more, but I think this will be my last one. So who do you want to hear? Do you want to hear Murakami?
Yes.
Hold on.
He's insane.
He's insane. Stephen King, Simone de Beauvoir, or Georgia O'Keeffe?
Well,
or should I just give you the Cliff Notes for all of them?
Yeah, Cliff Notes.
Okay.
I was going to say, or you have to go over them in System Spells, whichever you don't say.
Okay. So Murakami is absolutely batshit. He's insane. He says, when I'm in writing mode for a novel, I wake up at 4 a.m. and work for 5 to 6 hours. And then he runs 10 kilometers and swims for 1,500 meters, reads a bit, listens to some music, and goes to bed at 9 p.m. And I keep to this routine every day without variation. Like the repetition is the most important thing, just like Twyla. And he says it's a form of mesmerism. I mesmerize myself to reach a deeper state of mind. But to hold such repetition for so long, 6 months to a year, requires a good amount of mental and physical strength. In that sense, writing a long novel is like survival training. Physical strength is as necessary as artistic sensitivity. Just like Patti Smith, like it's labor, you know?
Yes.
There's even more, like, there's even more to him.
I think it's on YouTube. There's like a video where he walks you through like his record collection and how he organizes it and how he keeps it. It's fascinating. We're
going to have so many good links for the show. Yeah. Like this is all. Have you ever read the magazine Apartamento?
Yes.
This is like apartamento to me,
Yes,
where you're
that's
just like,
true.
okay, this is like how people live, and we're all weird.
Everyone is kind of crazy.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, Georgia O'Keeffe obviously lived in maybe not obviously. It's kind of like facetious to say that, but I say it a lot, so sorry. Georgia O'Keeffe lived in the desert in New Mexico, and she very much like Toni Morrison said, I like to get up when the dawn comes, and she would eat the exact same breakfast every morning.
What was it? We want to know. What does she eat? What does she wear?
Hot chili with garlic oil, a soft-boiled egg or scrambled eggs, and bread with savory jam, sliced fresh fruit, and coffee or tea, which sounds fucking delicious.
I'm like, that is a upscale breakfast.
Yeah.
That is a European, I don't know.
Yeah. I know. I'm like, that's like a Turkish breakfast, but New Mexico. Like,
Yeah.
I like it. Ugh, I crave Turkish breakfast so much. It's
Yum.
the best. She would take a walk in the morning before her breakfast at 7 a.m. And then after she was done with breakfast, she would go work. And then she would usually break at noon for lunch and work for the rest of the day. But if she wasn't painting, because she didn't paint every day, she would do admin, garden stuff, housework, answer letters, receive visitors. But she would have specified painting days. So she wouldn't do it all the time necessarily, but like Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, she said those are the best days. And then Stephen King.
Another insane person.
Totally insane. He writes every day of the year, including his birthday and holidays, and he almost never lets himself quit before he reaches his quota of 2,000 words, which is a lot, I would say. Like, if you sat and just wrote for 2,000 words, it would probably take you an hour.
Not if you were on cocaine, like Stephen King.
Not if you're taking meth. Right.
He was I'm pretty sure he was like consistently high.
Oh, God. 100%. Yes. But he starts at like 8, does his lines, 8 or 8:30. And then he says he finishes sometimes at 11:30 if the powder really hits. But usually it takes until like 1:30ish. And then the rest of the day, he just is with his family, watches Red Sox games, naps, a lot of napping. Lots of napping. People. Yeah.
And walks.
Yeah, yeah. And I think was that everyone? No, Simone de Beauvoir. She and Jean-Paul Sartre had a very similar work schedule because they were together for a really long time.
Iconic.
Name a better couple. Name a thoughtier couple. Yeah, and they would get up, have tea, and then at 10 o'clock they would start working together until 1. Then they'd go see their friends until like 5 o'clock. They'd go hang, and then they would go back to work and continue until 9. And she said, I have no difficulty in picking up the thread in the afternoon, which I just loved that. And they would sit together in their workspace and work quietly together, which I just thought was like so cute. You know, like they just synced up their lives. They synced up their thoughts and their schedules, and then they still made time to go see their friends. And they're like, okay, back to the studio, back to work.
Mirror neurons.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and there's a funny story. You know, she and Sartre had lots of lovers outside of their relationship together.
The original polyamory.
Yeah, legit. And one of her lovers said, on the first morning, I thought to lie in bed together, but she got up, dressed, and went to her work table. You work there, she said, pointing at the bed. So I got up and I sat on the edge of the bed and smoked and pretended that I was working. I don't think she said a word to me until it was time for lunch. Then she went to Sartre and they lunched. Sometimes I joined them. And then in the meetings, there were rendezvous. Later we met for dinner, and almost always she and Sartre would go sit alone and she would offer a critique of what he wrote that day. And then after 9, she and him, the lover, would go back to the apartment to sleep. There were no parties, no receptions, no bourgeois values. We completely avoided that. It was the presence of only the essentials. It was kind of an uncluttered life, a simplicity deliberately constructed so that she could do her work. And I just thought that was like such a funny, interesting thing. But also, clearly she had a very full life. Like she's meeting and having lovers and having living.
Parties at 5 p.m., happy hours.
Right.
Before her second work section.
And that's never been me. I'm like, once it's 5, I'm like, and I'm done. And if you give me a glass of wine, I'm like, definitely done.
Especially done. Unless you want me to argue something I don't even really believe in.
No thoughts, just vibes. That's it. Yeah. So what are our biggest takeaways from all these people?
I think something to note is that these people at the times that we are reporting on their habits, are in a good place in their career, are quite settled, or
are
maybe
dead.
Yes. No. I mean, at the time. Yes.
Right.
Or are dead. Yes. Some of them, I guess, are still alive. David
Yeah.
Lynch. And most of us don't have like the whole day to just make art and curate our schedule. And it's something that we aspire to. But that's just something to note, that all of these people are in a particular situation for various reasons, that's what they're doing all day. So don't feel dismayed.
Well, I also think when you really look at and break down their work schedules, most of them only work for 3 to 4 hours. You know, they're working
like
from...
of deep work.
Yeah, exactly. They're working from 9 to 2. Or like Anne Rice, I just need 3 to 4 uninterrupted hours and I'm good. Yeah. It's like, yeah, that's right. And we so rarely offer that to ourselves, even if we're our own bosses. Yeah. Like 3 to 4 hours of uninterrupted time. When do you really give that to your schedule? Hardly ever.
True. There's so much in our current lifestyles that are trying to pull us out of that constantly, that to do that, whether it's a weekend, whether it's your own schedule, own time, or before and after you're doing something else, requires a lot of effort.
Yeah.
Like sometimes physically, but definitely mentally. Like you really have to have strong boundaries for sure, but you have to be very, very good at saying no to a lot, even if that's just the messages popping up on your screen.
You have to respect yourself as much as you respect other people, because if you make time on the calendar for yourself, if you made a meeting with someone else, you would never cancel with them 10 minutes before. You would never show up 30 minutes late to a meeting with somebody else, but we do it to ourselves all the time. Yeah. It's like, oh man, that's not how I treat other people. Why am I treating myself in this way?
Mic drop. Well said. It's so difficult. But I think actually to the point of the last of Simone de Beauvoir.
Oh, thank you for the French.
Yeah, I think in that situation, like they were interdependent. They were like, we're work buddies. We are helping each other out and we're keeping each other on schedule. And I think it's okay if you're like, I have tried all these ways to keep myself accountable to myself, but it is the hardest thing in the world for many reasons. That could be true. And knowing that about yourself and then figuring out, okay, what is the system I can create? Whether that means I get a membership to a co-working place, or I have a friend that I always meet on this day at this time at the same cafe that is committed to doing this with me. Or whatever.
Yeah, or I just turn my Zoom on with another friend or someone in the Holisticism Hub or a North Node member, and we both work with our Zoom cameras on. Or we actually, you want to hear a really good hack? Actually sharing your screens. Sharing both your screens at the same time.
Oh, that's
so
good.
So that you can see that like the other person's not online shopping.
Here is my derm store cart.
It is full and interesting.
It's been a hard week.
That haunted cart will be up and good for you. So if you want to go check it out, if you want to hear more about Derm Store.
They're blending together. But yeah, I think also there are a lot of intentional breaks, whether it's exercise, going for a walk, seeing friends. I feel like within all of these schedules, there's an understanding of you need to change your environment to be able to also change your mind and your creative output.
Yeah. And like the idea that in some ways we're like not capable of doing things, right? Like we are weak. We are human. And if I don't set my day up in this way, if I don't acknowledge my shortcomings, like my inability to focus after 5 p.m. or my inability to work before I've had 3 cups of coffee, who am I trying to fool? Like, who am I trying to trick? It really only hurts me. And it's not a reflection on whether I'm a good artist or a good creator or a good person or a smart person. It's just how I am. And I think so many of us have tried to fit into a 9 to 5 schedule or a 7 to 3 school day and not found that suitable or beneficial for our life, our process, the way that we exist in the world. And we're like, oh, that must mean that there's something wrong with me because I like can't work for 8 hours straight. Far from it. It just means that like that doesn't work for you. And the goal of system spells is to help you figure out what does work for you so that you can like do your sacred work and also have fun and rock out with your cock out, you know?
Yeah, well, that's the thing is like a good system and good boundaries and constraints are actually more freeing.
Amen. We love a little bit of structure.
Yes, even if you think you don't.
You kind of like it. I think that's it. That's the show.
Let us know what habits you like in other artists or do yourself. We want to hear from you.
Yeah.
We have a poll. Go onto your Spotify because Apple Music is great for reviews.
Yeah,
but Spotify is also, if you're already using it, which most people are, also great for podcasts. And we like to pose some questions. And we have some questions up. We'd like to hear from you. It's an easy way to answer if you don't feel like writing in or sending a voice note, which you can also do.
Which we're happy to hear from you. We love to hear from you.
Yeah. So let us know who your favorite creators of present or past are and what their habits are that you want to share, because there are a zillion that we obviously didn't mention. We mentioned some big guns, but there's a ton we don't know. And also, if you're thinking about system cells, you should join us over the weekend in June 18th, 19th.
Yep, 18th and 19th. It's going to be really fun. I promise, for a weekend of school, it's going to be great. Especially, like I said, if you're someone who loves to binge concepts, because squiggly-brained people tend to really enjoy that. I think you're going to absolutely love this.
So we'll see you there.
If you want to learn a little bit more about system spells, there is a whole class that I taught on Monday Hour 1, and we'll drop the link below it's on YouTube, and there's a really great template to get you started with Notion and Monday Hour 1, which is part of what we teach. That's just the tip of the iceberg of what we teach inside system spells. So we'll put the links below so you can grab them and you can kick around with Notion and see if you like it.
Monday Hour 1 in itself is life-changing. Whether you end up using Notion or not and you use a different software, but Notion is the best. It's so helpful.
Yeah, it really is such a game changer. And when I don't do it and I'm like, maybe I'll figure out a better system, I never do. It's the best one.
It really is.
Okay, cool.
See you guys next week.
Love you.
Bye. The 12th House is produced by yours truly, Wallace Miller Blanchard. Our theme music is made by Nathan McKay, and our wonderful editing is done by Softer Sound Studios, who you can find more information about in our show notes.